Whether you're a Class 5 rafter or just looking for a couple of laughs, these two have you covered. Welcome to Aaron and Zach's Better Than Mediocre Rafting Show.
Well, happy Friday, and welcome to Aaron and Zach's Better Than Mediocre. We're Entitled and Naive Rafting Show. And Aaron's out this week, and Steve's in. Welcome to the show, Steve.
Welcome to you. Thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
Yep. I'm sorry to everybody. We haven't been having shows for a while because I've been on the river a bunch. Aaron's been busy, and I think we're going to get back on a regular schedule for every Friday. And this week, Steve, our topic is river training, which is something you've done a lot of.
Yep.
But I think it's tricky because training river guides is different than training private boaters. And that's what I kind of want to get into. You have a career of training river guides. I'm starting to train a lot of private boaters, and I kind of want to talk about the differences a little bit.
Okay. In my experience, I think one of the words that I'm trying to think of the key word we've used behind the private boater training, but the key word we've used for commercial guide training is responsibility, in that there's a lot of responsibility for other people. I think the keyword we've used for private boater training is independence. But I think as you go up that scale, as you get more involved with in the private boating world, that a lot of times you find yourself in more and more responsible situations. And I think that whole training process is it's a process, right? You're never done. Like, there's always a next step. It's hard to find that next step. Experience is a good next step, but it's not often the most efficient next step. So,
I mean, that's where I kind of am stuck on this. So I think about this a lot, because people want to take our classes, and sometimes we're full, and I want to give them advice on how they can get better. And a lot of times I'll just say, go practice, go get experience. But we're finding people take our classes and want to basically almost only boat when they're taking our classes. And I'm like, go free like a bird and go boating and come back in a couple of years and take another class. So I'm kind of caught up right now. So when you say experience isn't the best teacher, and I want to show some videos. I don't want to get into this right now. We can get into this right now, but like you brought that up. Like, how much, what does that look like? Like, some training, some experience, and then more training. Like, what do you think would be like the best path for somebody to go?
I think I didn't say that experience isn't. I said it's not the most efficient next step, not always the most efficient next step. But I think that being intentional about getting better is the key, the common thing. Whether you sign up to take a class, whether you sign up to take a swiftwater class, whether you watch videos all day, or whether you go out and get on the river. But even then, getting on the river, one of the things that I learned early on that I still remember, but probably from the first day I ever learned how to row, was the guy who was teaching me, Blake, saying, like, there are other ways to, like, look for a harder way to do this. You can hit the easy class 2 shoot down the middle of the river, but hey, let's try going to the right of that rock. Let's try catching that eddy. Like, make it harder every single time you go out. Try and push yourself a little bit and be intentional about getting better. I think you can do that on your own. I think that's where experience can be accelerated. The benefits of experience can be accelerated. You could, I've been down the road 10 times, but I've always run Upper Blackbear Falls the exact same way. Well, maybe on time 11, you think, I'm going to try and run it a little bit harder way. Like, that's how I'm going to get better on this trip down the road. I'm going to look at the rapids a little bit differently. I'm going to try something a little bit different. I'm going to push myself a little bit more than I would than just getting down the river. So I think being intentional about it is helpful. And then watching other people do it, I think, is really helpful. Watching good or bad people do it is helpful. And there is a place, and you want to learn how to ski or snowboard. Like, you could take a lesson and go ski for a week and then come back and take another lesson and then go ski for a week and then come back and take another lesson. There isn't that same structure within the rafting community, I don't think, to sort of balance the personal learning and the professional instruction.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as easy to get professional quick instruction for a day, for a week or whatnot. So you sort of have to seek those opportunities out.
You mean like find people that want to show you down the river,
Yeah,
or seek out
yeah,
professional?
certainly you can. But even when you're all by yourself, just doing your own trips, push yourself. Catch eddies that are harder than they need to be. Like, make it harder than it is. Like,
I think where people get stuck with that is they're afraid to do that and then get stuck or make a mistake, right? Like people don't know enough to make decisions on their own.
yeah, and that's a good piece of information to have in the back of your mind as you explore those situations. Like, don't push it too far, but you can still, I think there's places where you can make the appropriate risks, take the appropriate risks without endangering yourself or anything else. I mean, just catching eddies higher up, catching eddies in the middle of the rapids, catching 5 eddies in Blossom Bar rather than just running the rapid. I think those are places where you can get better.
Upper Black Bar Falls. You mentioned that one. Is there a harder line? Like I've gone at the top, I've gone just left. Cause like for those of you who don't know, like I worked on the Tuolumne River for a long time with Steve. And on the Tuolumne, you learn to take some really tight lines that you maybe as a Class C boater would look at a rapid and think there's no way down this rapid. So I learned on a place where we took boats. People didn't think you could take boats. And then I went to the Rogue and I'm like, oh, I can shove a boat over here. When you're mentioning other black bar lines, upper black bar lines, what are those lines?
I might have spoken a little bit too flippantly there. I'm not sure I actually thought of one. However, you and I both know that if the traditional right-hand wall line in Black Bar Falls wasn't there, we wouldn't portage that rapid. We wouldn't in rogue trips. We would. There are other ways through there. Much harder, probably.
Yeah.
Probably for moves it a full class higher. But I'm guessing that if you scouted that rapid and said, okay, I'm not going to run the right-hand line, there would be Class 4 type lines through there that involve a little more maneuvering, a little more like different kind of boating, like rock pivots and things like that, but that probably wouldn't expose you to some really hairy consequence.
Yeah.
Like there might, it's not like you're going to go into a big hole or go over a waterfall
but you could wrap in Upper Black Bar. That's the thing. People are really afraid to wrap there.
And it would be embarrassing and it would be bad. And I'm not I'm not promoting that. So maybe it's a different rapid, but I think there are places where, and there's a lot of places on the road where you can just go right of a rock or left of a rock, do a narrower shoot where shipping your oars is going to become more of a test, where pivoting off of rocks is going to become more of a test, where catching micro eddies is going to become more of a test, just in even slow water.
Aaron and I have been talking about this a lot, and this topic too. And he thinks people should learn to paddle boat first. And not just talk. I mean, I think guides should. I think agree. But do you think private boaters should learn to paddle boat who aren't going to paddle boat?
I wouldn't say that they should or shouldn't. I think that being a good paddleboat captain makes you a better rower. Being a good kayaker can make you a better rower. Being a good inflatable kayaker can make you a better rower. I think all of those skills, I think there are little mini skills from each of those other disciplines that translate into rowing. The same as if your career path was going to make you a paddleboat captain for the rest of your life, learning how to row would be helpful in becoming a good paddleboat captain. But I don't think they're necessary. I think they just make you look at the river in a different way, different organizational structure that can be helpful. There's a little bit of crossover. I'm a better paddleboat captain because I can row, for sure. I don't know if I'm a better rower because I can paddleboat captain, but there's times when it helps to be able to look at both disciplines. Sure. Are you disagreeing?
I just think if you're not going to paddle captain, why learn it? Like if you just want to row, why learn how to paddle captain? I see how there's value in learning to paddle captain, but if you're never going to do it, just focus on rowing. Where Aaron's like, no, you should learn how to paddle captain because blah blah blah. I think he's maybe being argumentative. You know how Aaron's sometimes argumentative just to be argumentative. He's taking a side just to annoy me.
Yeah. I'm not going to do that. I annoy you. I'll annoy you other ways. Yeah. If you want to stick to rowing, yeah. But my point is, you can float down the river, and I'm not saying this is in every situation. Like, I'm trying to imagine me in the Grand Canyon looking at a rapid going, oh, I'm going to try and make this harder than it needs to be. Like, I'm not doing that. It's already going to be hard enough for me. I'm not going to maybe push my boundaries in certain situations, but I think that being intentional about getting better is, it's easy to just do what we've always done, what's easy for us. And it's harder to climb that ladder. It's harder to get better if we're just always going to accept the level we're at. And there's places to push it. And I think, Zach, we've all been pushed by other people, and Aaron would be someone who certainly pushed me, made me do things I was uncomfortable with. High water things or more difficult rafting things, where having his security blanket, his safety net, made it easier.
That's the big thing is, I think having a safety net with you, like if you're all paddling kind of at your ability level at class 3, it's hard to make that move in black bar. But if there's one really good boater with you that's like, hey, try this, and I've got your back if something goes wrong, makes it easier.
Let me pick a different. Let me pick a different one. The black bar situation might come up where a beginning boater was on a trip with you and Aaron and said, hey, what if I try this here? And you could talk them through it and maybe help them and be that safety net for them. But let's go downstream to, I don't know what that big rock that's in the middle of the river.
Sure.
No. Like, it's not even a rapid named.
It's just above Kelsey. I think I'm talking. There's that whole there's all those places where there's like a really right channels that a boat will fit, but most people wouldn't even think about it because they can't see the end.
Yes. And nothing.
Look, a few times you've looked back up and you're like, yeah, there's a line.
Yes.
But you wouldn't do it without knowing there's a line.
And it's a very, very low risk, low danger, low exposure place where you can learn to maneuver your boat in much, much tighter situations. And from an oar awareness standpoint, a great much, much more productive a place to spend that 10 minutes than floating in that left-hand channel, which you've done every other time. And you just head down the river. Like, oh, I'm going to go over there. And there are places like that all over on the road, this stretch right above Missouri Creek. There's some rocks on the right that you can do that same sort of, hey, I'm going to go over here and see what happens. Right above Kelsey Canyon. Yeah. All those rocks, either side. Yep. There's an easy side and there's a slightly harder side, but I don't think the slightly harder side is dangerous.
It's not dangerous, but it's definitely intimidating. Isn't that rapper called Quiz Show, that one with a bunch of different lines?
Yeah, I'm not.
That one has, I mean, I get there every time and I'm like, man,
I'm going left. I know. Yeah.
But there's a lot of lines there.
From that, though. One step from that, there are places where you go on non-traditional lines that are not going to expose yourself to any great dangers. And then when you find yourself in that place where you've got to be working in tighter places, when you move up the ladder, you're like, oh yeah, I sort of know what this is going to happen. I know how to ship my oars. I know what's going to happen when the back of my boat whacks a rock. Before you get into a place where you have to do it. Being intentional, I think, is what I would
be intentional on learning.
Yeah. Or if we don't do it with each other, probably because there's some male egos involved. But how cool would it be if you went boating with a less experienced boater and they asked you, hey, if they were open to suggestions, if they were open to ideas, if they said, hey, I want to get better, what can I do to get better? Help me get better. Like, that's just being intentional rather than, I'm going to go boating with Zach And my goal is just to not mess up. And also, I'm always going to do the things I know how to do. I'm not going to take any chances. I'm not going to take advantage of the fact that Zach knows a lot more than I do. I want to tap into that. That's just what I mean by being intentional. Like, take advantage of those opportunities. That would be a one-on-one situation where they happen to be going boating with you. They sign up for one of your classes or a different class, sign up for a rescue class, or just go boating by themselves. Try and be more intentional about getting better. And it's not going to happen like that. You can accelerate the pace at which you get better. You're not going to like overnight become that much better, but over time, you're going to incrementally get better faster than you would if you just always did the same thing.
I'm with you. I'm 100% with you. And now when I think about this, I think of Old Scary in the South Fork. When I was learning to kayak, Old Scary was really hard, and it was scary. It's class 2 for those of you who don't know. It's like not hard, but when I'm learning to kayak, it's a big rapid. And so my first time down, I just kind of survived. My second time down, I survived. And then I started catching eddies certain places. And I started making it. Didn't it used to be a class 4 rapid a long time ago?
Yeah.
Now it's class 2. But you can make class 4 moves in there, at least in a kayak. There's eddies to catch that are tricky to get out of. And then finally one day we took the left channel, which you can get beat down in a kayak. And so we start experimenting with holes. And so we do a class 2, we do kilometer lotus all the time, but we just start, upping the stakes in the rapids. I think about Old Scary every time people talk about experimenting in rapids.
I think that those opportunities abound. They are everywhere. If you look for them, try and make them better. And they're not radical. They're not going from class 2 to class 6 or class 5. They're like 2 to 2 plus, 2 to 3, 2 plus to 3. I think they're all out there.
I think of it as like make class 3 moves in class 2 rapids, and then go do class 3, and then start making class 4 rapids moves in class 3 rapids, and then slowly make your way to class 4 is kind of the best way to go.
You can create them artificially, right? I'm sure you do this because I do it. I'm assuming everybody does it. But like pour overs that you can go over or go left of or go right of, easy to go right of it. You can go over it if you mess up, but like, oh, I'm just going to try and go left of that pour over. Zero consequence if you don't make it. You go over the pour over, not a big deal, but learning how to get left of that pour over, learning what it takes, what kind of ferry angle it takes, what kind of eddies I need to catch in order to get there. Like it's a class 2 rapid. Now I'm putting a class 3 move in the middle of it. That's not even like I'm creating it out of water. You like that? Creating it out of water.
I'm with you 100%. I think Zach has a good comment here. Do you see the comment? Have you seen his comments before? I think this is where I think people struggle, and I'm having this big dilemma. And so I didn't intend to bring my dilemma up to you, but I'm going to bring it up in the show. And then Zach, thanks for the comment. And anybody else who can help me with advice here. I think that when people have a crew, it's hard to meet new people. What I'm finding private boaters is a lot of them are having a hard time meeting a crew, like the people to go with, because older, we have families and dogs and lives and whatever. And I think that's part of why our classes are popular, to like go boating and to meet new friends and develop skills. I'm gonna ask you for advice, Steve. So I call Steve all the time, for those who don't know, asking for advice. This is moving into me asking for advice. But I need help. I need help with this. We have our class 3 schools that we do. People love them. They're like, oh, it's the best time ever. But they don't go boating then. Like I thought, we'll teach them things and they'll be better and they'll just go boating, and they don't go boating. So then they book our class 4 school. And our class 4 school isn't fun. Our class 3 school is fun. We're on the road. It's fun. We have campfires, sing songs, have cool classes. The class 4 school, we go get real and do hard stuff. And we do a lot of rescue practice, and we're cold. And at the end of class 4 school, they're like, the class 3 school is more fun. I'm like, yeah, it is more fun. It's on the road. Like, this is training. And so I think people think that they do the class 3 school and then I'll just do the class 4 school next, and it'll be just as fun. But it's not. It's more like, it's a little bit more intense. And at the end, you don't feel like it was fun. You feel like you learned a lot and you're tired. and they're two different experiences, right? And
Yep.
so, but when people take the class 3 school, what they want is the class 3 plus school. They want a river that's slightly harder than the Rogue, that's different, where they can keep developing those skills. I think that's what they want, and they sign up for this thing that's a little bit intense that we do in Hood River. What would you do? How would you solve that? Like, how would you? Should we just communicate with people better? Like, these are two different classes, or say, take the class 3 school, then you have to go out on your own before we accept you in the class 4 school.
I don't know, but I've run into that dilemma in selling commercial river trips to guests who, hey, we had a great time on the class 3 river. Now we want the class 4 river. And there's always that hesitation of like, it's not just like class 4 isn't one more unit more fun than class 3. It's one more unit more hard, more difficult, more challenging. I think for most people, class 4 isn't more fun than class 3. And a lot of the people I'm thinking you're talking about in your rowing schools, like class 4 becomes scary and challenging and hard and cold and wet and all the no campfires, no singing, crying instead of singing. Yeah, I think being more realistic about it. And then if what's the sweet spot? What is the class 3 plus venue?
That's the problem. Sorry to interrupt. I think people think that Mother Nature invented all these perfect rivers.
Yeah.
And so the Rogue is really special, and they're just like, oh, there must be the next venue. Well, Mother Nature didn't make the slightly different, slightly harder river that has water when we want to go on it. And it makes it tricky. And so, if we had, the main salmon might be that place.
Yep.
We just don't have a permit there, and it would be so expensive. Like a class 3 plus school on the main salmon would be like $2,500 or something, like more probably. And so they want the same experience, but slightly different. And Mother Nature doesn't give us that opportunity.
Yeah, I know. And it's not, the main salmon it's the same as the Rogue. It offers the
Difficulty.
pretty much the same. We've done it. The rowing schools we offer on the main salmon are campfires and singing. The rowing school we've tried to offer on the middle fork of the salmon was tears, and not just tears for the students, tears for the instructors.
You said tears, Tears?
What's that?
You said tears, like crying tears?
Yeah, like tears.
It's hard. It's really hard to do.
Yeah.
We tried one once too. It was really hard.
Yeah, it's challenging, and that's not necessarily what people want. Maybe a week after, a month after, a year after the school, they're like, wow, that was really cool. I learned a lot. But in the moment, it's pretty miserable. Can be pretty miserable. I think there's still the opportunity, and I think that when I have taught people how to row or how to guide, there's a satisfaction that comes from just getting to the bottom of a rapid, no matter what. And it's wonderful and it's good. And yeah, let's congratulate ourselves. But there's always a way to do a little bit better. There's always a way to do a little bit harder. There's always a way to challenge yourself a little bit more in those situations. Pushing for that perfection, seeking that perfection, insisting on that perfection, or demonstrating what perfection looks like rather than what acceptable looks like in the instructional setting, can maybe add that element of, this is harder. They're making it harder for me. You're making me do it with only one oar, or you're making me run to the right-hand side of that stretch of Rogue that we were just talking about. That's making it harder. That's frustrating me, but I still get to have a happy campfire and sing a night. So I think there's, Mother Nature may not have given us that perfect staircase of levels and rivers and progressions, but you can create it. You can make it.
So you're saying they should just do the Rogue over and over and over, and just do it once as a learner, and then go back and do it and be challenged a little bit more by it.
Okay, Zach, you can answer this question any way you want.
Mm-hmm.
If you go down the Rogue, if you're going on a road trip tomorrow, commercial road trip, private road trip, whatever, isn't there some aspect of your guiding that you're going to say, I'm going
Yeah.
to be better at the end of this than I was at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like maybe it's, I want to tell a better campfire story, or I want to not be the last guy to come into breakfast again. Or I'm going to try and catch the eddy in the middle of Blossom on the right-hand side in a 18-foot, fully loaded gear boat. Like that's what I want to do. I'm going to push the top eddy at Blossom in my 18-foot.
No, you're not. Do not say those words. Hold on. I want to be very clear. I actually had a discussion about this the other day. Somebody was on a trip where somebody pushed that move and they rapped. And I'm just like, why would you ever push that move? Do not, please. I'm not a big fan of never or noise, but please never push the move at Blossom.
Agreed.
To everybody out there.
Agreed. I agree. I didn't mean that. But there will be some aspect. You'll try and get better. And I think that all of us can be doing that whenever we go on whatever river we're going on.
So you're saying, yeah, just do like we should be promoting people doing more of the rogue classes and just getting better every time with that experience on the rogue, because the rogue is a wonderful place to do it.
And if you really want to make it more formal, give the instructors permission to make it harder, to create a little bit of that discomfort, create a little bit of those tears, push you a little bit, not accept good enough, but like really strive for
like get in a pod of people that make sure you get a day on a pod where like, we're going to push some boundaries today. We're going to run we're going to run the right side of Blossom, which we don't let students run Blossom in our schools, but we're going to do something outside the box with this group today.
Yeah. I think and it's not even all of them, right? Like you're going to have students on your schools who aren't ready to do those things and students who are, to keep them all. That's maybe one of the beauties of a rafting trip, that say, if you sign up for a group lesson at the ski area, sort of the least skilled snowboarder or skier is going to dictate what runs the whole class takes that day. Like we're all going to stay on the green circles, whatever they are, because we have a green circle snowboarder with us. You can run sections of the rogue and let the green circle people do the green circle run and find whatever blue square for the blue square people.
You just, like, from our perspective though, we have to have just spot on instructors to pull that off. You can't just throw like decent instructors. You need good instructors that can see people's abilities and choose those places. It just takes really, really good high level of instruction.
And in my personal experience, I need buy-in from those students that says, yes, it's okay to insist on perfection or to push me a little bit. Like, I'm okay with that. Because you can turn that off anytime you want. Like the next day, you're like, hey man, yesterday was really rough on me. I just want to get down the river today. Leave me alone. You don't have to sign up for it for the whole duration of a trip or the whole duration of a day. I think that's a piece of instructional curriculum that I think would be important to keep in mind.
Yeah, I'm with you. My struggle, and there's a couple comments I'll get to here, is like the class 3 run school is such a cool experience. People love it. But some people want to get rad. And that's kind of what the class 4 school is like. We're now going to give you some tools to go out and you go get rad with these tools, but they're very different experiences. And so I had people who did our class 3 school who I could just tell were like in over their head, or like the experience we provided them in class 4 school wasn't what they wanted or expected. They were like, oh, we're training here. I was hoping just to sing songs and row some rapids. So I'm struggling with that a little bit because and we just did 4 of these class 4 schools and they went great, but there was always a couple of people that were definitely like not in the right place. And that's hard as an instructor because you're just like, I want everybody to have an awesome experience. As one person, I can just tell, took the time off work, drove all the way out here, and this isn't what they want. They didn't read the website. They just showed up thinking, oh, class 4 is next. It's going to be just like the Rogue. But we've created different experiences. I'm going to power through these questions really quick. Yeah, Zach, I think that's a killer idea. Yeah, but the problem is, where do we do class 4 2.0? Do we just do it here in Hood River again, and then we go practice? And I mean, I would advert. Let's call it class 4 plus. We'll call it class 4 and class 4 plus. People would beg me to get into class 4 plus school who have not done the class 4, because everybody wants the hardest thing. And I'd let some in, and they would misrepresent their abilities, and then it would be hard. So I think it's hard. It's hard. That part's hard. But I have people who've done the class 4 school 3 or 4 times. So I would say, like, the class 4 2.0 is just come back and be more competent and sit through all of our lectures and talks. And Heidi, good question. People lie to me all the time. I was given a river, or exaggerate to me. I get exaggerated to all the time. I've done this and this and that. And then they get here, and we go do something hard, and they get here, and they're not ready for it. And so that's hard. That's hard to do. I think, and we found out that we can get anybody through our class 4 schools, almost anybody. They're just going to be scared and tired and cold the whole time.
And disappointed.
Yeah, they'll leave like, this is not what I wanted. I wanted to go do the campfire thing and like make good friends and have nice lectures in the sun. And instead, we're lowering boats down cliffs and catching micro eddies and throwing throw bags. Yeah, disappointing. That's really hard. And so it's less about people's abilities beforehand. It's more about their long-term goals. If somebody just wants to be a class 3 boater and maybe a little class 4, our class 4 school is not right. If somebody wants to start pushing the limits and going to class 5, this is like the skill set.
Yeah.
Or lead people, go out and be a leader.
Yep.
And think about things like downstream safety and provide, so if you want to lead like in my mind now, the class 4 schools are develop the skills you need to run a middle fork of the salmon trip. All like the downstream safety, the boat order, the boat spacing, or management, that kind of stuff. But I want to move on from this topic, but see, Bruce, that's interesting. Bruce has done a bunch of courses with us, and so has Heidi. I assume that too. I assume that they're doing the class 3 school in boating, and then doing the class 4 school in boating, and then maybe doing the class 4 or like school again in boating. It's just to get better. But what we're finding is people only go boating in our schools. They just keep booking our schools, and that's the most of their boating.
So from
they do the class 3 and the class 4, and then someday they'll go boating, but there's not boating in between.
So from a marketing standpoint, speaking specifically to your schools and your students, you have a class 3 school and a class 4 school, and there need to be more choices, right? And you need to identify some nuances between those two things, maybe some skills that we're going to develop in this, the class 4 2.0, the class 3 plus, and let people sort them out. And then maybe your curriculum is deep enough now that there are, particularly when you come to leading trips, like maybe one of the differences between the class 3 school and the class 3 plus school is we're going to add this trip leader component where we're going to shift some of the responsibility of the welfare of the whole trip from you as a student to you as now we're going to give you some leadership skills. Class 4 is more on river skills kind of thing. Class 4 plus adds in some more of the other types of skills.
Where do you do a class 4 plus?
I don't know, man. We've spent a long time at HARDA trying to figure out, and we have a lot of different choices trying to find the place for that and have failed. The Tuolumne at certain water levels, maybe, but you're still going to have to compromise. Like you're not going to row every rapid. Like instructors are going to have to row some of these rapids. But the Tuolumne is an option. The middle fork of the salmon at low flows. I mean, that's as hard a boating as you can get. The day stretches that you run up around Hood River, I'm sure there are a lot of them that are appropriate for it. Running the same stretch of river again isn't a bad thing.
We already kind of milked those out in the class 4 school. So once you've done class 4, you've kind of seen a tip, generally a lot of it. It's just like Mother Nature doesn't provide that the perfect classrooms for us, unfortunately. That's what's tricky. So, yeah, I'm kind of, you can tell I'm debating this in my head a lot, and I've had a lot of discussions about this because people want more schools and more instructions and more nuance to it. It'd be super cool if the Illinois was a little bit easier and it had reliable water. Like you take Greenwall away, and it's always 1200.
Yeah.
That's a class for school. That's the next one from the Rogue, right? But as soon as you add Greenwall and you add any variability in flows, you can't teach a class at 650 and you can't teach a class at 2000. It just
Right.
knocks the Illinois out. And the Middle Fork it's tough. It's a tough place to run schools.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot more out there where that like the level matches up and the season matches up in terms of like when is there reliable water levels to do it well. Let's move on. This is thanks for, I appreciate the comments and the conversation, and I could talk about this the whole time because I've been thinking about it a ton.
But
what I'm going to do,
it's a video show, so this has been a podcast. We should get to the videos.
we'll get to videos in a second. You remind me to bring something up, and then we'll get to the videos. The I forgot what I was going to say. Let's just do this. So this is something I made a little while ago in the morning that Aaron and I talked about, and I'm just going to run through it pretty quickly. I want to get your quick thoughts. Aaron and I just had some disagreements, and I should make this a bullet. Let me make this a bulleted list. So, oh wow, I made it. The thing's really big. How do I do bulleted list? There we go. Hopefully this works. So this is what I'm going to say is like how people get better. And Aaron and I talked about this a little bit. Number one is just, and jump in here anytime you're like, this is stupid or wrong, or you have better ideas. First thing to learn is like basic body mechanics, right? Forward strokes, back strokes, pretty straightforward. And then talk about the dangers of having the oar pointed to your body and shipping wrong in your downstream oar. And then stay on flat water, practice shipping, then turning. And then for me, the big thing here is like working on catching eddies and ferrying. What do you think so far?
Keep going.
Okay. I'm just going to talk this through. So catching eddies and ferrying, catching and exiting, pulling. Sorry, this list is kind of messed up the way it's written. And then slowly introduce pushing, and then catching and exiting waves, pushing. There should be a bullet by some of these things. So surfing is a thing, and then downstream ferries, and then what I'm going to call aggressive ferries, which are like, I'm going to call it regular ferrying, like 45 to 60 degrees, and aggressive ferrying 60 to 90, and then tracking, making moves early, surfing holes, and then crab strokes is like an advanced thing. Any thoughts here? Does it seem like a nice, straightforward progression? I'm sorry, the formatting's terrible.
Yeah, it's terrible. When, like, if I was the god of,
You are.
if I was the god of instruction, and I tried this once, I didn't try it. I tried to get someone else to try it, and they did, and I still didn't get enough feedback to know whether it was a good idea or not. I think that, just to go to the beginning of your progression, I think that on day one of any instruction course, the number one obstacle to learning is fear. And I have proposed that for our whitewater schools, which are guide trainings for the most part, like we're trying to train guides, commercial river guides, that we consider coming a day early and doing a flat water day or a lake day. Like, you're just going to row this boat, get in it, sit in it, feel the oars, and we're not going through any rapids at all. And I sort of some people are going to already feel comfortable, and they can skip that day. Like, I've been on a boat, I'm not scared anymore, I don't need that day. But a lot of people, I think, need that just to get comfortable with this whole thing, where being in a boat on moving water. Like, whoa, I've never done this before. Now I'm in control of this boat on moving water. Overwhelming to me. I need, like, can we just move slower? And moving slower is not a typical classic pace for most rowing schools or instructional things. Like, hey, we got a lot to learn. We're going to go as fast as we can. We're going to be at the leading edge of that thing. My worry is always that by getting on the leading edge of that thing, that a lot of people never get caught up. Like they're always like waiting to be comfortable so they can learn what you're trying to teach them. So, a lot of those things, body mechanics on flat water and land. Yeah. Like I think that's let's do this when it's not moving. I don't know if it has to be on land. That's even once, like I can be on water. The water's not moving. I think that's an important thing. And it might be that that's what some people experience, when they're going down the river, like they're not confident enough. They're still afraid. So they don't want to take that. They don't want to go over to the right-hand side of the river and go behind that rock because there's this fear element that's still affecting them. I don't know. I'm maybe overanalyzing that.
Do you like how I organized it now?
What's that?
Do you like how I organized it there? Like addressing fear by starting on flat water and then doing these things.
Sam taught a school once that was supposed to start on the Klamath. And what they did the first day was go down to that ferry point section where it's completely flat and just row back and forth across the river. They made some, what would you call those? Like slalom gates out of water bottles full of air tied to a piece of hoopy tied to a rock. And they would set those out like, hey, row around these things, get used to rowing the boats. I'm sure there were students on that class who were like, this is
very
really
bored.
I didn't sign up for this. This is stupid. I'm sure there were other students on that class who were like, thank God we're doing this. So glad. And then the next day they went, or that afternoon, they did what would be a traditional start to a whitewater school. And yeah, that might be, I think adding it as an add-on, like, hey, come a day early and we'll let you do this at put in. You could do it at whatever that put in is.
Ferry Road. We live on Ferry Road, so just off Ferry Road or somewhere on the upper road could be super easy.
Yeah.
I mean, on our schools, we start at Alameda, I think. We normally start at Alameda. We could actually have an optional day before where we start at Galice and just float Galice to Alameda and just practice really easy stuff in between. But even like without, let's say, like even separate than schools and just how you learn, what do you think about this as a beginning idea of a general progression for the normal person rowing? Separate than even classes, like just like this is something Aaron and I kind of argued about the other day.
I'm going to send you something that Noah Brewis came up with for our whitewater schools, and it's a flow chart. Each of these little things that you have in your bullet list, Noah Brewis, always going to do it a little bit.
Yeah,
a little bit better.
It's going to look better than mine.
She's never achiever. But she took your bullet list and made it into a flow chart, and it intersects and comes back. And, like you can't learn this until you learn this. You have to learn this at the same time. These things are going to come together over here.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. All
is
of those
specific
things
to rowing, or is it just guiding as a whole?
It was for our whitewater school, so it included everything. But if you took out the rowing parts, the ones you could draw this line, you could connect your dots through her flow chart, and it would be more. It's not quite as linear as you make it here.
I mean, this is just me on a Friday morning typing this up for
yeah. I know.
Ago. This isn't like official curriculum. This is just for the point of discussion.
And she took it to this whole other level, and it's beautiful to look at. Like it's really fun. Like
can we see it right now, or you can give me now?
No, but you can see it. I'll find it next.
Okay.
I have a laminated copy of it. I don't have a digital copy of it. I have an actual laminated sheet. And it's color coded, of course. And it's got little bubbles, and it's really cool. You could work on this and make it that way. I don't know what a crab stroke is.
A crab stroke is, you've done it when you're shipped and you're just doing little micro adjustments.
Yep. Okay.
I call that, I mean, that was me, like, what's an advanced thing? Like, what's way down the line? What's a little thing this is not fully fleshed out, but I thought, what can I put at the very end of this to make it an advanced technique?
Yeah. Okay.
I'll tell you where Aaron and I argued for like an hour about this on the show a few weeks ago. He thinks you should teach people to pull 90 degrees to the current first before you teach them to ferry. And I was like, that's nonsense. People should learn to ferry before they pull. You know how sometimes like let's say it's high water Tuolumne and you just need to get to river. Let's say the Ram's Horn. Is it Ram's Horn or Ram's Head on the Tuolumne?
Ram's Head.
Ram's Head.
That's about rapids above Zach's Crack.
Yep. Thank you. Thanks for that. Thanks for continuing that tradition.
Just so you know, I went down the Tuolumne last week
Uh-huh.
on a guide training thing, and someone asked me if I had a name for this rapid, and I got to tell that story. So yeah, it's Zach's Crack is a thing.
I'll have to make sure they know some Zach's Falls, but we're not going to get into that now.
So okay, at Ram's Head, you have to get from
Ram's Head at 8,000. You're just like, you have to get to the right side. You turn the boat 90 degrees the current, and you just yard the boat to shore. That's what you do. But when you're learning, I mean, that's a technique I use on a lot of rapids. I just pull 90 degrees. It's not ferrying. It's just yarding the boat to shore. But I think ferrying is an important critical skill you learn early. And Aaron's claim is that you should learn 90 degrees the current first and then learn ferrying. I'm saying no, learn ferrying because you got to understand ferrying and you'll figure out the 90 degrees of shore thing down the road. Do you want to break the tie?
I think that 90 degrees of the current is ferrying.
It's not ferrying.
Yes, it is.
It's not.
Okay, here's my argument against that.
Okay.
45 degrees of the current is ferrying.
Yeah.
And 45 degrees downstream, where it says downstream ferries and aggressive ferries, that's ferrying.
Yep.
So there's this moment when you're 90 degrees where you're ferrying, and then when you're 90 degrees, you're not ferrying, and then when you're beyond that, you are ferrying again.
Yeah.
You're saying that it disappears.
Yeah.
As you go through that rotation around the center
at 90 degrees, because the idea is you're moving faster or slower than the current, and that angle of the water pushing on the boat moves the boat from side to side.
Okay.
Like this came from ferries, right? Where people like had a ferry across the river before bridges.
Yeah.
And they turned it at an angle. If they turn it 90 degrees, it wouldn't work.
There is a physical component to it. Okay. So you're saying.
So I'm saying when you're teaching people to row, they should learn to ferry and they should understand the concept of a ferry early on.
Yes.
Aaron claims you should turn the boat. You should teach them. Don't teach them ferrying. Turn them 90 degrees to water and pull to shore.
Breaking the tie in your favor.
That's what I thought. Well, anyway, thank you. So Aaron's claim is if you teach 45-degree ferries, people will do 60 and they won't have any purpose. Because if you don't get enough angle, you're just fighting the current, which is true. He doesn't believe people can understand what the 45 degrees means. So he says, say 90 and they'll do 60. I'm saying I tell people the real information and trust them. Aaron's like, no, just teach them the one thing and they'll figure it out. And so what I'm saying is like, so if you think of 0 degrees of the current, right? 0 to 45 does almost nothing. It's not until 45 that things start kind of like the ferrying actually works. The whole 0 to 45, you're just fighting the current. It's useless. It does something, but barely anything. 45 to let's say 70
Physics kicks in.
Physics kicks in. Above 70, I'm going to call that an aggressive ferry. So 70 to 90 all the way to 110 is an aggressive ferry. And then 110 to 135 is a downstream ferry.
Except so that's where at 90, it's not a ferry angle at all.
At 190?
No, at 90 itself.
There's no ferry angle. There's no
ferry angle.
It's just yarding the shore. And Peter Fox teaches, he loves this topic. He loves just turn the boat and pull it to shore. But there's no ferry action. There's nothing acting on the boat to move it, having to do with the
other than you on the oars.
Yeah. It's a great tool. The Ram's Head at 8,000. That's what I'm doing. Grand Canyon. That's what I'm doing.
Cross the current.
On the Tuolumne, you don't ever do that. You can't. Your oars. You have a downstream oar exposed.
No, I get it. Yeah, if you're just going directly across the current, you don't want to call that a ferry angle. That's fine. I think that's sort of complicated. I think this is one of those topics that when you and Aaron and Peter Fox talking about, and most people probably just like fall asleep. But point taken.
Okay,
Technically, yes. And
All
I
right.
would say that those people who are falling asleep are missing something. It's a good conversation. It's a valuable conversation. It is way down the PhD level of this topic.
In terms of, but I think in terms of if you're teaching people to row, you should have a firm awareness of this.
Absolutely. Yes. Learning to row, it might be a little bit extraneous.
Yeah. Well, this discussion we're having, but when you're learning to row, you should understand ferrying. Right?
Yes.
So I put that early. So for me, like it's super early. Catching eddies and exiting eddies, pulling. Oh, it's hold on. Let me fix this document. See where I fit in there. So these are two subjects. So like catching an eddy and exiting eddies on a pole is something I teach early. Like just pulling in and like almost parallel the eddy line, and then I teach ferrying pretty early.
You got to do another line wrap at surfing waves. Down a couple.
Oh yeah, that's the one too. Sorry. What happened was I had a document with this on it, Steve, and StreamYard wouldn't open the document, so I had to put it in this really quick, so I messed it up.
And in the flow chart, the nuances or the sub bullets.
Yep.
Like under catching and exiting eddies, pulling, are all of those tricks and skills and techniques, getting into an eddy, getting out of an eddy, keeping your boat perpendicular to shore so you can use your oars, riding the eddy currents. Like there's a lot between, there's a lot underneath a lot of these bullet points that should get taught, do get taught. But as far as the order goes, I think this is a really good outline of that progression. Yeah.
I'm going to quote that and send that to Aaron. All right, let's watch a video. I'll watch a video. Let's move on to, which is the most fun for everybody, is less of us talking and more of just like watching videos. And
we can talk and watch videos.
Yeah. Talking and watching videos. I had a couple of good videos for us to watch this week. Did you already watch these, Steve?
Yeah, I did. The Dane Jackson one?
Want to do that one first?
Yes.
Okay. Stop.
And then your that Spring Creek one didn't make sense to me, but the Dane Jackson one, and then followed by your 2 drone videos.
Okay.
I think there was a lot that I saw in there that was really, really interesting.
Yeah, those were fun. Wait, you didn't? The Spring Creek one is the coolest one.
Oh.
Did you watch the whole thing?
No.
Oh, well, then you don't know why. Okay, let's do Spring Creek first then, because I want to make sure we have time for it, because it's really cool. We'll come back to Dane Jackson. Oh, you're gonna like this. This is one of our guides sent me this. He was on this trip. How do I do this again? Share screen. Sorry, it's gonna take me a second, everyone. I apologize for being slow. Here we go. So we're starting partway through. It's being sped up right now. And this is one of our guides private boating in North Carolina in the winter. I think Mark Rivers, PT, DPT, Badass was there. Mark watches the show. And some other people. One of our guides, another guide, a couple of our guides were on this trip. And I guess this is just classic North Carolina creek boating. You didn't watch this part, Steve?
I watched. It looks like the parts I've watched, but I didn't know where it was going.
So you just stopped watching.
Sorry.
It's okay. No, it's actually better. I'm glad this is going to be new to you. Do you see what's going on?
Shit. Excuse me. Wow.
So unexpected, watch that again, because it's pretty. Let's go back. So you have to really be scanning downriver to see a log. It's hard to see. But like right there, let's go back a second. Right there, he sees the log. the green boat, and tries to just perch up on the rocks. Somewhere here he sees it and tries to perch up on the rocks and jump out real quick. Right there. Luckily, that other boat can catch an eddy here. Luckily, he can go under the log.
And it looks like he did go under the log.
Yeah, he did go under the log. So yeah, this is something. I mean, this is. Well, I mean, I think the reason I want to share this is because it's just a good reminder to be scanning downstream and being able to catch micro eddies and get out real quick. It looks like there's a right line there. Now that I look at it, they could go far right. But this is a hazard they didn't know about. It might have happened that day. This is a real thing that does happen out there. Not sure how that happened. But anyway, that's that video. Oh, he swam to river right and used a throwback. Sweet. That's a key. That's an important. We've been talking about throwbacks a lot this past week. That's a nice throw. It's a really nice throw.
Really nice throw. And helpful. Looks like he makes it.
Yeah. I mean, that's a practice throw. You don't just throw that off the couch. I mean, maybe he did, but that's a practice throw. All right, so that's that video. Switch it up. Oh, yeah, Franz. Franz makes throwbags. Hey, Franz, I saw somebody rocking one of your throwbags the other day. Look good. Franz, will you tell the audience if you're still making those? Because I keep getting questions from people wanting to know if you're still making them. Share. And Franz, we just finished an IRF course 2 days ago. You'd have loved it. All right, let's move on to here. All right, back to Dean Jackson. I guess we can skip past him just talking because that's not even on. So I believe this is 49 to Bridgeport in California. So he sees that person's maybe going to swim. Has his throwback. This is pretty amazing.
Pretty amazing.
Has his throwback pretty ready to go. Is that guy still? Oh, he's swimming now. Right on throw.
Incredible throw.
And if this is 49 to Bridgeport, I think I know where they're at. There's a portage downstream. I mean, the guy's swimming into a portage pretty much. I think this is just below put in at the 49 bridge.
He shows later on or earlier in the video what they would have swam through, and it wasn't pretty. What I found remarkable about this is when you watch it in real time, it's less than a minute. Like, yeah, this is what he would have swam.
That's the portage right there. Oh, there's a left line to the portage now. Let's go back. Yeah, like so. This through here is I don't know if you can see this is what I thought was the line. He probably would have swum through this. I don't think he would have made it over to the left. But the water is also higher today, so this isn't as nasty. But it's not a pleasant swim.
Not a pleasant swim. There's the speed with which he reacts, gets his throwbag out, one shot with a throwbag is remarkable. I've stopped it to see how long it took, and that's not something you do without. I mean, that's world class. That's thinking ahead of time, being in those situations, knowing where your equipment is. Just even the physical agility with which he gets out of his boat and gets it up on shore, and that he knows that that's what his job is. Yep. He's not looking for someone else to do it. He talks about that later on in the video. Like, there are other boats in the water with the swimmer. They're going to do that. They're going to play that role. His job is the throwbag. I mean, that to think all that through, I just thought that the perfection of this, or the accuracy of this, was really remarkable. Like, this isn't someone making this up as they go. This is someone whose mind is working really, really fast because they've been in those situations before and they've thought about it ahead of time and they know. He talks about clipping his throw bag in front of him in his kayak. That saved. There is what's the margin for error here?
I mean, he got him right in time.
Right? How much does he have? 5 seconds more? I don't think so. 5 more seconds, and that's.
But it's not like it's not like he knew that was going to happen there. Like the entire time he's paddling, he has the training and practice to go into that mode. Like if he entered the rapid and said, "Dane, you're going to eddy out and throw a throw bag for a guy," he'd be like, "Okay, on it." But he made the decision making happen instantly, and he eddied out, got out of his boat, had his throw bag ready. I mean, the guy could have swam earlier and he would have missed him.
Yeah.
Like if the guy hadn't held on as long, he would have missed him.
Yeah. No,
he does fumble with the carabiner a little bit here. I mean, that's just like a second.
And then a flawless throw. There's no second throw coming. Like he's not going to rewind his throw bag and make another throw. And then he talks about this later about his footwork, finding a place to brace himself, to pivot the guy in. If he's in a precarious place, it doesn't work. I'm sure there was a lot of maybe some luck involved in that, but that's a lot of reactionary genius that is noteworthy. And like I was impressed. A lot of the videos that I've watched with you, or situations I've seen, things don't go wrong, don't go 100% right all the way through. And it'd be really hard to pick and find something wrong with this scenario that he walks through, in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing it because it's good and it's good video for him. Was there another day where he was 5 seconds late and we're not seeing that video? Like think about, I mean, I was saying even Dane, but think about like these get missed all the time. Throwback, like people aren't prepped. This is a daily thing. People are swimming things that they shouldn't be swimming because the reaction wasn't there. We just did a ton of throwback work, Steve, and I was with guides, like professional guides throwing throwbags, and their first 3 throws were up in the air, down in the water, off 30 feet, and just some technique work. They're quickly getting way better with throw bags.
There's no second throw on that one. There is no second throw.
Yeah. But also at the same time, these people are going into that run. You and I wouldn't go because of that. Like, I'm like, no, I'm not going to go because if I swim, I'm going to die.
Right.
Like Dane didn't call me up and be like, "Hey, Zach, want to go kayaking?" Because I can't save him. Like, I don't have that. Like, I can't get out of a boat that fast and make that throw under pressure. You know, like these guys are out here doing this stuff all the time. They're in their 20s. They're quick.
Yeah, and it's a great example. And really, you don't see those very often. Great examples, right? And yeah, maybe there's times when it didn't work out, and then he's not showing those videos. Of course not. But it's nice to have that standard and that example to look at and say, oh, this is how, in a really, really extreme situation, really, really good people, experienced people are going to react in the situation. Because now when we go to those drone videos, there's places where it's lacking, where we're not operating at that level, right?
Yeah. And I think one thing I would say is, like, as people develop in boating, physical fitness and agility is important. Like, I know people want to be class 4 boaters and they want to run like the green wall and the Illinois and stuff, but the physical fitness goes with that. You can't be not physically fit because this stuff matters a lot. And so I get a lot of calls. People, can I run the Illinois River? Am I good enough to do this? And like, I can't tell people if they can. I'm not going to give people advice because it's just not my job. And it's a hard thing to do. But did Dane get copyrighted? I just saw this comment. I'm not sure what that means. But an important aspect in moving beyond, even in class 3 boating, physical fitness matters. But especially moving past class 3, physical fitness is crucial. And if you don't have it, you have to have a team around you that's going to be Dane Jackson. That's going to Dane Jackson you, right? Like you can be the one person who's not fit, but you have to have the team around you that's going to make that toss. And the people around you are not going to get that toss from you. So
no, and they're not going to want you on the team forever, right? Like eventually they stop inviting you.
Yeah.
That's right. But yeah, point taken. Watching the agility that he and the guy in the blue kayak show on shore and the way they move, like, yeah, I thought that was really a beautiful,
sweet
video. Yeah.
Cool. Let's move on to this next one then.
Give me some background on it, or give us some background on it as you show it. Like what is going on? There's no audio.
So this is just raw footage. This is so on one of our class 4 schools this year, we had a crew that was like, they were solid. So we progressed really fast. And so on the last day, we set up a mock scenario for them.
Okay.
To sort of deal with. And the scenario, and this is the group, they didn't know this was coming. Well, they knew it was coming. I said, there's a scenario coming up. You guys figure out who's the trip leader. You guys figure out the boat order. You're going to run into something. So that's them getting the scenario that is set up. And the scenario is a boat, we'll see in a second, just really stuck on the rocks in the middle of the river. And this isn't an easy place. It's not like you can just eddy out or walk down to it. And there's rapid after it. Did I start at the beginning here? Yeah, I start at the beginning. So you can see there that green boat is the scenario. There's 2 people on it.
And in your scenario, that green boat is not part of their party.
Yeah, it could be or it couldn't be. I didn't express that. I might have said your first boat went down and something happened to it. You're catching up with it.
Okay.
And so it's their job to manage the situation the best they can.
And the yellow kayak that's furthest downstream
is
part of this
kayak down there. I might have said it's one of our instructors just being safety. So that kayak it's just downstream on the left is out of play. That's just our own safety for the situation.
Okay.
So when we set these up, we have like safety around it. And I'm on that green boat. So I went down and helped set that green boat up. And you'll see my kayaks on the green boat.
I saw the kayak on the green boat. You're on the green boat.
Yep.
Someone else is driving the drone.
I'm flying the drone from the
From the green boat.
Well, we were there long enough, and I was like, because we'd already been here for 20 minutes at this point. And I was like, well, we're bored. Let's try it. I mean, one of the big lessons of this scenario, of doing because we practice these on the ground, for our courses. We like run through a mock one, but on the ground. The big takeaways. One of them was rescues are boring.
Oh God, yes. I was going to comment on that.
Like we sent somebody to be upstream spotter. Like when I say literally the guides just said, here's a scenario. You guys choose trip leaders. You choose roles. We're going to go be safety and observe. And somebody who's chosen to be an upstream spotter was pretty bummed because they just sat there bored. But that's a role and it's really boring.
Pause the video for a second.
Okay. And
give me some background on the orange boat and the blue boat, the orange cat, the blue cat. What's their purpose here?
So they sent them down. This is a choice by the trip leader to have that's their downstream safety. That's what they chose for downstream safety.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
I want to ask you if you think that's downstream safety, but before I say that, at this moment that this is paused, and this is one of a scenario or a situation or a moment that I've seen so many times, and it's agonizing. It's scary to me. There is no downstream safety at this point. And as soon as that kayaker got out of his kayak and the other 2 people are standing there, the location we can talk about in a second. But downstream safety, you're not tied to shore, and you're not like you are the sled dog pulling at your rope on the edge of the eddy, ready to go. Hold me back. I'm ready to go out there. And I didn't see that sense of immediacy that I wanted in the downstream safety people, then we can talk about where they are and the shortcomings of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one thing we're trying, like I did an IRF course last week, and in the IRF course is taught to the new international standards. We're trying to use the word downstream containment.
Yeah. Great.
I think I like downstream safety more because everybody knows it, but I just thought I'd bring that up to you. I'm starting to think about it as downstream containment, which describes better what's happening. Containment.
Yes. And it's a much better concept from what I'm trying to explain. Like, there is no downstream containment at this point. Right?
Yeah. So they sent those two. So right now our kayaker gets out of her kayak, but she gets back in. I mean, right now as instructors, we've set no downstream containment because she's gotten out of her boat, but I think she gets back in here real quick.
Yes, she does.
So she's out for a second. I'm not sure why she got out. So like our job is to provide that when the students don't. They sent those two cat boats over there to be downstream containment, and that was the feedback we gave them. It's like, if you're gonna be from that position, if you're gonna do it, you are sitting there untied in the water, ready to go. But the better downstream safety containment would have been downstream, because there's another rapid down there, would be like not there, but the next eddy down. But that was what was really cool about doing this as a real life example, was they thought that was good enough. And we're like,
Right.
no, that wasn't what that was at all. But they also had, they pulled throw bags out. And I was like, yeah, you're going to miss it with the throw bag. I mean, a throw bag's a tool, but that's not downstream safety. That's just a bag in your hand that you may or may not hit with.
Yeah. That's what I noticed in this. And then looking at it in the drone footage, obviously you get a different perspective, and it's really easy to look at this and go, oh, there are better eddies for downstream containment than the ones they've chosen. But the fact that there's no, like you can't you can't just launch your boat out into the current or be in the current, is the flaw that a lot of people have. Like, oh, I'm downstream containment, I'll just sit here and watch. I'll sit on shore. I'll tie my boat off.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's
so this here's a good angle to see if you fall.
Stream.
Yeah, there's nobody down there. If you like, I actually at one point was like, I wanted to jump out just to make, like, I was telling them I might just jump out just to show them what happens. I didn't, but we talked about it. And you'll see in the next video, I changed
the dummy you throw in. Yeah.
I bring the dummy because I'm like, man, I wish I brought the dummy on this one, because they really could have demonstrated that wasn't adequate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's an astute point, Steve. So the two big takeaways in the debrief of this one were that, one, rescues are boring, and a few people get to be heroes, and a few people have really boring jobs. And two, downstream safety means you're ready to deal with anybody that falls in. Anybody, like if those guys on the rocks you now see in frame, they could fall in. It's not just like they if that guy right there, lower right, falls in, which is possible, they might be able to throw back him, but not 100%.
Zach, I would argue that blue boat, blue cat, and person in lower right-hand corner, if the person in the lower right-hand corner falls in, I want the person in the blue boat to be in their boat ready to row rather than standing there with a throw bag.
Yeah, 100%.
I would opt for a boat with a person in it that's mobile to go out and get someone, rather than a throw bag. So a throw bag is downstream containment, depends on or relies on whatever you're trying to contain being able to grab that rope.
And you be able to make that throw.
Yeah. But a lot of times that's not the case. You could be throwing at a unconscious swimmer, or a boat that doesn't have anybody in it, or something that isn't able to hold onto that rope. So I would have loved to have seen people sitting in those boats further downstream, or even out in an eddy in the middle of the river, just holding themselves in an eddy. or sitting on a rock holding their boat ready to jump in it if they're on that, like immediately downstream of your boat. There's that one big rock with the water going over it. It seems like you could be able to pull into an eddy in there, which would be a much better place to be from a rescue.
But at the same time, like if somebody falls in, you really can't do much before that rapid. Like if you're in the cat boat and that rock behind the eddy, and they come swim to you, you really can't get them back in mid rapid. Like if it was me and I'm doing safety, I'm just sitting at the very bottom of the whole rapid.
The
And
whole
I'm just
thing.
like for sure, I'm for sure containment. Like you're not gonna. You can get to them and they can maybe grab your boat, but
Which would
now
help.
they're maybe, but then their feet are dangling. You can't grab a boat and get your feet up. And then you might get smashed between a boat and a rock. So I would rather just have somebody defensively swim down this and then get them at the bottom than have them just holding onto the boat, getting dragged over rocks and potentially have their foot entrapment because maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think you can hold onto a boat and get your feet up. It's really hard to do. You can't, like, you can do one or the other. You can't do both. So if you're just grabbing a boat and being dragged down a rapid, your feet are just your lower extremities are hitting rocks, getting dangled. You're smashing into things. If you're defensive swimming, your feet are up.
I would talk to you more about the benefits of getting out of the water earlier versus the momentary risk, the second long risk.
Can you really get out? Can you really get out of the water before that, like in that short amount of time?
Absolutely. If I got a boat I'm holding on to and someone's going to pull me back into it, I'm going to be able to get up out of the water faster.
Not a cataract. Maybe a paddle boat. So if that's a paddle boat and there's somebody's guiding it and there's people to pull them in, or it's a cataract, if somebody's rowing it and there's somebody else there that can pull them in. But if you have oars and you have to let go of the oars, which are now missiles, and then stumble over the boat to pull them in.
Okay.
It's hard to pull people into cataracts.
And you want to be all the way at the bottom of that second section.
Yeah.
There's two boats. One of them can be in each place. The fact that they're duplicating each other is duplicitous. Like you don't need to both be in that wrong eddy. Send one boat to the bottom, all the way to the bottom. Yeah,
Wait, hold on. We talked about that though. So what? You kind of have to send both boats down. Because what if the one boat down flips? Like who's the downstream safety for the boat that goes by themselves?
I don't think that second rapid is
there's actually, you don't know this, but there's a hole in there that can flip boats.
I saw it.
Okay.
Okay.
Sure. I'll tell you what. I can tell you what I think. I don't want one of my students going ahead of us by themselves. Like I'm nervous then. Like if they sent one boat down by itself, I'm landing the drone, getting my kayak, and going down. Or Jess, who's on the left, she would just know to go down. Like I don't want one student. I want to provide. So we have them providing in the scenario. They're providing downstream containment for the theoretical scenario, and then we're providing a layer on top of that of downstream containment. So if one boat went down, if I saw them come up that plan, I'm in my kayak, I'm following them down. I don't want them to send one boat down.
But if they had come up with a plan to send both boats down,
I'd be fine with that.
You'd be fine with that.
Yeah. I don't think
both boats
on river left can't do anything.
What's that?
The boats on river left are kind of useless.
Absolutely. And downstream would be better than where they are now. I agree with that.
Yeah.
One on each side of the river.
Sure. Yeah.
Rather than sitting next to each other. Little things like that make a difference. Something in this, when you said that rescues are boring, the most boring part of this rescue was watching this guy restuff that throwback.
That's what I want to get to. First of all, we're having, and we've already done throwback practice this time. This is where having practice is real nice. What would you have done here?
So I think this is a place where you're number 2 in command, you're lieutenant, you're way down.
This isn't the person in charge right here, by the way.
Isn't?
It's not the theoretical trip leader.
This is where the grunt on the trip can bring him another throw bag.
Yep.
And say, I'll stuff this one. And you can say, oh, we're not in that big of a hurry. I would argue that you're always in a little bit of a hurry. If you can save even if it's 1 minute to stuff a throw bag or however long it takes, I would think that would be more efficient. As a first year, never been boating before, person who's been exposed to a throw bag once, but I'm not going to be the guy throwing the throw bag. I'll stuff your throw bag for you. Here's another one.
Yep.
I thought that was a place where you could just been more efficient, more teamwork, more like thinking about the whole thing.
Let me go back to one thing. Just 1 second. It's sunny. I'm in a dry suit, but I still am getting a tiny bit cold. Like we've been out there long enough to where I'm just like this. Like it was painful to watch this throw bag. I was watching it from the drone too. But this is where you either you swap throw bags, or somebody else comes in. Like, hey, you're out, you're in. Somebody comes down with their throw bag and tries to make the toss.
And what was I don't think I saw the resolution of how this boat actually comes off, but I thought this was when you got the drone up later on and you sort of see the straight down view of this. I thought this was a really interesting place where I don't know if I would have thought about it in the moment in this scenario, where the orange boat and the blue boat are, the downstream containment boats, looked like a much better place to pull from.
Mm-hmm.
Was that?
Yeah. I mean, we wanted to make this not that hard to get off. I think that they were, I think that's something you learn from practice. I think they just, when you set up a scenario, a lot of times the students are just like, oh, we know what they want us to do. We'll just do a 3-to-1 just to do it because that's what they want. And so they were just looking for where they are and where there's an anchor and how they can pull.
What I thought would have been really cool, and I'm, again, 1 in a million, maybe 1 in 1,000 type situation. If lower right makes that throwback toss to you,
mm-hmm.
and then makes another throwback toss to orange and blue boats,
mm-hmm.
connects those two lines from where he is, and then changes the angle of pull. Like, I'm out of it now. But that I had always sort of thought about, oh, maybe there's a place where you throw from point A, but you want to pull from point B.
Mm-hmm.
How do you get from point A to point B? 2 different throw bags could do it. And this looked like one of those places where it was like, oh, the guy who made the throwback throw can make both of those throws, but maybe the orange and blue boat can't make the full throw out to your boat.
Yeah, they did it at some point. A throwback came out from that side. We didn't get to. At some point, I was like, all right, I'm done flying the drone. I got to get my kayak. Things are happening. So I'd land the drone. What they end up doing is setting it, like somebody's there in the background setting up like pulleys and stuff, and they had to attach 2 throwbacks to each other to make a system. Sorry, my phone. To make a system, and so they pulled it with a 3-to-1, I think, which was, I think 5 of them could have pulled it off with just out of 3-to-1, but we'd practiced the 3-to-1, so it was good for them to do in the field. The real lesson that came from this, I've a new mnemonic, Steve.
Okay.
Called THUD. And it goes, T is think about after, H is have a leader, U is upstream spotter, D is downstream safety.
What's T?
Think about after. Like when it's done, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
You ever pull the boat off and then you're like, oh, we didn't think about what's going to happen when you pull it off. And then something worse happens.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the 4 things like I teach, when something happens, just go through THUD. I just made this up a couple weeks ago. So there might be a 5. Those are just the 4. I mean, someday you might think of one to add to it and I'll have to be like, make a new one. But when they pulled this off, they now had a boat in the current being pulled upstream under a mechanically managed system. And they had a really hard time undoing it because it's hard to reverse that stuff through. And so that's another reason why pulling from river left would have been nice, because it would have swung down to shore. When this was done, there was just a boat in the current that they couldn't pull off, which was another really cool part of like just looking back at doing it. But the thing is getting everybody over to river left would have been really hard.
It doesn't look to me like it would take that much manpower or human power to swing that boat, to pivot that boat off of there. But I don't.
It didn't. You know,
Yeah.
I could have pulled it off with my hands right there.
Right.
We want to make it a little harder than that for them, but you're right. If you pulled from river left, it would have pivoted out. And probably come off pretty easy. All right, you want to watch the other one? So this is one we did 2 weeks ago at the end of a class for school. I'll end that one. Let's get to some comments really quick. There's lots of comments. And we'll get back to the next one. Friends is not making throwbacks right now. So super guide throwbacks sounds like aren't being made. Yeah, cool. I'm glad you're guiding Franz. That's cool. Got you. Oh, hey, it sounds like we got a copyright violation. I get it now. We got a copyright violation because we used Dane's footage, which might get me in trouble with YouTube. I don't know how that works.
Let me change my name on my little.
I don't know what this means, but we'll find out what happens. Yeah. So it sounds like we might have got. I got to learn about what YouTube videos we can watch and can't. All right, so let's go to. Hopefully, he understands that we're using it to share how cool he is, and for education. I don't know if he's the one that chooses. So I set this same scenario up. That was a class 4 school. Then we did an IRF course, which is designed for experienced guides. I mean, this course had 11 people in it from around the world, all over the U.S., like a high level of boater. And we had safety kayakers. So these 2 kayakers here are in play, and they're acting as safety kayakers.
And that safety kayaker right there, catching that eddy and then pulling out that far in front of that lead raft. Yeah, I thought that was really, really good.
Yeah, these were really good safety kayakers too. And they're being assessed, so they have to be, just spot on.
I'm giving them a good assessment. The first one,
they passed.
I noticed that.
So same scenario, but now they're paddle boating because we're doing guiding type skills. But I made this scenario harder. I put this. They had a safety craft as well, a safety cat in the scenario, but the safety cat gets stuck. So it's not just one boat stuck; it's 2 boats stuck.
Okay. So the yellow boat that I'm about to see is stuck intentionally.
Yeah. The cataract that's in there, so they see it, and now the safety kayaker goes down to
assess,
investigate. And it's a safety kayaker, so the safety kayakers don't always get downstream safety. They have to be paddling way below their level. So the blue boat is the stuck boat, same place, and then the cat is the second thing that they have to deal with.
Where are you?
Do you see me on the left there?
You're on shore driving your drone?
Yeah, that's me. That's my green kayak on the left.
Yellow boat is a student?
Is a student. Yeah. That we told, it's all students. Okay. I just floated down with them and said, you get stuck here, you get stuck there. Let's because, and the thing is, this could be solved with just the safety kayakers. I mean, we're assessing the safety kayakers, but we're really assessing, it's a trip leader scenario. So we're assessing somebody in a boat back there. And so we want to remove the safety kayakers could just say, hey, see the ones even saying like, hey, you, they just push and pull and get it off. And then this is the crew getting out right here.
And the trip leader is somewhere amongst these people?
Yep. Whose trip leader was this? If I remember.
It's really hard to be a trip leader with those 2 safety kayaks. Like communication is.
Yeah, we did a bunch of trip leader scenarios with safety kayakers and people who never use them. And if you use them well, they can clean up your mess. But people didn't know how to use them. And so here, I'm telling the people in the boat, I think this is where I do it, because the safety kayaker is about to solve the problem by himself, but we have an unconscious swimmer dummy in the boat. So at some point here, I say, I'm telling the people in the blue boat, throw out the unconscious swimmer, and that will remove the safety kayakers from the situation and give the safety kayakers their own mess.
Which was pretty dramatic looking.
Yeah, it turned out he pinned really well.
Really well.
Yeah, I mean, so the first one, when I was like, man, I wish I could just jump out and swim and create a downstream safety issue, I was like, we brought the dummy with us so we could create that downstream swimmer issue. And I wanted to remove the kayakers from the scene. And so there's the unconscious swimmer. And it's really hard to get an unconscious swimmer to shore without a tow strap.
Pause this for a second. Yellow boat
Uh-huh.
is now getting unstuck.
Mm-hmm. Under the direction of a safety kayaker. A safety kayaker was like, hey, you, fix that.
Was the yellow cat under instructions to not get unstuck before this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the idea is if you get stuck, don't do anything. But if somebody just says, hey, start
Get off.
it.
Okay.
Take care of it, then you do it. You
Okay.
listen to what you're told to do.
Okay.
So if you have the ability, you could do it.
Then just pause for one more second.
Okay.
To go back to our other video where we're in the same place.
Yep.
Yellow cat is in a better downstream containment position than orange and blue cats were in the previous video.
Mm-hmm. Except that he's stuck.
And that's the other piece where it's like, you've seen that. Oh, I'll just get stuck here and I'll be downstream containment. And watching the amount of time that it took him to get unstuck, which seems like inconsequential, becomes really consequential. Get unstuck before you.
His downstream, like he could get himself barely stuck here. What you're saying is yellow cat, if he was barely stuck on the rocks, he's now really good downstream safety because he could then go do something. I would claim if a swimmer fell out right now, yellow boat would really struggle getting him back in. And it could be more dangerous because you're now exposed, your feet are exposed, and you could get smashed over a rock. I would say just if there's a swimmer here, just swim coach them. Get your feet up. I'll see at the bottom. Now it depends.
I would hate you if I was that swimmer.
But would you rather be dragged over rocks and have your foot entrapped?
I'd rather be trying to climb back into a boat than swimming.
This is where physical fitness makes a difference.
300 yards. Absolutely.
This is where it depends on who the swimmer is. If it's somebody who's like 120 pounds, yeah, you probably get him back in. If there's somebody like 190 and 120 pounds that can help, if I can just get my boat to them and they can grab on and pull themselves up, we're good.
I want that.
If you're out of shape and you can't, and you're just going to hold, what I'm finding is most people who swim, they just want to grab something. They don't want to actively get back in their own boat. They want to, they just can't. And so I'm going to make a choice. If I think it's like a little ninja, if it's Dane Jackson, I'll just pull up and he'll pull himself in. But your typical swimmer, I don't know if and I can't let go of my oars and pull them in mid rapid because the oar might hit something, smack me in the head. Now we have two things. So this cat isn't set up for rescues either. Like if it had one of those cats, you guys have that high side cat on the tee that has that big scooping, that big landing zone. If I can just push the cat up to them and they jump on.
Yeah, great. Yep. Knowing all that, I'll go with you. Hey, feet up, breathe in the troughs. I'll pick you up at the bottom. I'm right here. If it gets really shitty, if you lose consciousness, you're right on top of them.
Yeah, and I got later this day, I was a victim for a safety cat, and I got pulled in by that safety cat, and I didn't help. I was like, I'm a swimmer, I can't help, and it was hard. He had a hard time pulling me into that boat.
Yeah. Okay.
So we're back to we throw the unconscious swimmer in. Kayakers like, oh, I can just, and this guy's a ridiculously good kayaker. Like he's one of the best kayakers in the world. And you notice you really can't, without a tow strap, you can't get unconscious swimmers to shore. It's remarkably hard.
Do you think this green kayak made that decision on his or her own? Is like, hey, I got to go.
Safety kayakers move on their own. An unconscious swimmer is a priority. Everything else is stable. And now they're both going to become downstream safety as well. And that was my goal. I just want to pull them out of the situation so that the trip leader had something to do. So now it's kind of the same thing. I knew the trip leader was here. This guy's awesome. So they do go through the same exercise, but because it's guides, they're just like, get it off. They just basically, they don't need ropes. It's like, hey, move people around. They're able to do it with just moving people around and saying, just like, get the boat off. And now that there's some downstream safety, see that cat's in the eddy?
Mm-hmm.
Now there's some downstream safety. If they have a swimmer, it's not as bad. Having the drone is really fun for this. So safety cat's that safety cat in the eddy isn't going to pull a swimmer in at that point. But he's checking out what happened here. And what happened is really cool.
Unbelievable.
Our unconscious swimmer just randomly pinned in this rock. So I had to fly the drone over to watch this. And what a cool part of the exercise to have that happen. To just see it too. Like that's what happens. And the kayaker, of course, he's like a Dane Jackson type, can get out of his boat anywhere, quickly get to the swimmer, pulling by the PFD.
Still can't get him out.
Yep. The other kayaker's there for extra safety. Realizes he's not downstream safety at this point. I like this part a lot because in my mind, I'm like, you're not really downstream safety, but then catches that eddy to be downstream safety. At that point, I realized stuff was happening up here, so I thought I should probably pay attention to these guys too.
And something I was taught in one of the very first rafting classes I ever took, which was a long time ago, and things may have changed, but curious here that the words that were upstream rafts are like gold. Like as soon as this raft passes that boat, you lose. You can't you can't put that boat back upstream.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, like, what was the value of sending this boat down at that moment?
I mean, I'm not sure if I agree with upstream rafts or gold. Why?
Because
you can't get it back upstream, but it's kind of useless upstream.
Unless that blue boat comes off and one of those people is left on that rock.
Oh, how do you get them?
Then I have a boat upstream, problem solved. Really easy to solve the problem. If I don't have a boat upstream, really hard to solve that problem. Like you're going to swim.
What are you going to do from upstream? Paddle down and have them jump in?
Yeah.
I mean, there's other ways to get that guy off the rock.
I don't know that there's a safer way.
Have them just jump in and swim. I think people are afraid of swimming. I mean, I guess we saw that unconscious swimmer got pinned in the rock, and yeah, so swimming is maybe dangerous. But if the boat goes by, somebody jumping off a rock into the boat doesn't seem like the safest thing to me. Somebody flying through the air, landing on T-grips and things seems dangerous to me.
Yeah, and having someone swim the rapid seems dangerous to me. Having someone pendulumed in with a throw bag is another option.
So what's the least dangerous of those three?
I don't know that we can discuss that, but right now we're having a discussion of what's the least dangerous of the two. We don't even have number three anymore. And
there's a boat upstream still. Steve, there's still
another boat upstream.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Awesome. Then you have more chances to make that recovery. You've seen this situation, and it's about to happen.
Where they flip, theoretically. I've seen where this happens, and all of a sudden you have three swimmers.
They're about to get out on the rocks and push the boat and swing around, and they all get back in. Great. That doesn't always happen. Having someone stuck on a rock in the middle of the river, I would rather jump into a raft than jump into the river.
You'd rather jump into a raft that's coming by at full speed.
Absolutely.
I'd rather not. I mean, think of all the things you can hurt others and yourself by just jumping in the raft. Okay, here's the other boat. Hold on. So you're saying this boat right now, moving at this speed, somebody could have just jumped in, that would have been just fine.
No problem.
How many times have you done this?
Half a dozen.
All right. I've done it once or twice.
Do
I've
work?
always- yeah, I did it once at Nemesis. I think I was on the rock at Nemesis at the bottom, kind of the bottom right rock, that big rock, and I had to jump into a boat. There's just stuff. You can twist an ankle, twist a knee. Like
can
jumping in a
drown.
moving boat, and then I mean, that's again, we're going back to physical fitness. You're assuming the people on the rock have the physical fitness and the agility to jump onto a moving raft.
But Zach, you're assuming they have the physical fitness and the agility to swim a class 3 rapid.
Anybody can swim a class 3 rapid. Just jump in. You'll be at the bottom 99.9% of the time. It's not that hard to swim a class 3 rapid.
Okay. And if I try and jump in the boat and I miss, I'm swimming a class 3 rapid.
No. Hold on. You don't want to swim right there.
It's a little less controlled. I admit that.
There's a big difference. If they jump in on swim river left, it's pretty straightforward of a swim. If they jump where that raft is now, see all those rocks they can get tangled up in? I don't want to swim that.
I would. Okay.
Okay, I want to ask you. So there's 3. I want to go back to 3 options. I love this.
In 10 seconds of your video, you will no longer have option number 3.
To jump in the raft.
Yep.
So your options are.
Or to deliver someone onto those rocks if you need to. What if all 3 of those people wash in and the blue boat is left there? And now you have to get someone onto that rock. How do you want? What's the easiest way to get someone on that rock?
That would be an amazing. I should have said that.
I wish we had a boat upstream so that we could just raft down there and jump off and onto that rock.
The next time I do this scenario, Steve, I'm gonna tell somebody to stay on the rock. That would have made the scenario even better. Like just say, hey, when you guys set free, one of you just stay here and see what happens.
And I think in the process of resolving that afterwards, or problem solving that from the eddy below while that person is still on the rock, someone might say, oh, if we had a boat upstream, they could just jump in it as the boat went by. And you say, well, that's not an option anymore. It may not be the best option, but you wouldn't even have it if you send your boats downstream. And I don't know what you gain by sending them downstream. Like, what did this boat do by going downstream? Do you want more downstream containment?
Yes.
You want more bodies down there to pull on the rope?
No, containment. I mean, I've seen so many issues where I always want more and more containment. Like, I understand, like, there's no upstream spotter. So having somebody upstream in case a group comes down, I think having an upstream boat is a good thing. But if all 3 of them swim off that boat at this, if they're pulling it, the boat flips and they're swimming, and there's only orange boat and 2 kayaks downstream, and 2 kayaks downstream are focused on the unconscious person, how do you get all 3 of those people? I like having downstream containment.
You don't have any problem with them swimming the class 3 rapid.
I don't have a problem swimming the rapid. I'm thinking about it after.
Okay.
Like, they do it and they're tired and they can't swim to shore.
Let's also think of this. And again, picking this apart from a drone view, which is really, really helpful, and looking at it from that perspective, nothing should be happening on the blue boat while those safety kayakers are still preoccupied with their swimmer.
That's a good point. Like, we should
ideally,
stop
right?
Scene. Like, hey, let's focus on this. Let's focus all of our firepower. Let's focus on the unconscious swimmer. Let's stabilize blue boat.
Get back to full strength.
Yeah.
Get back to full strength. Deal with this other problem. I think in this scenario, they're dealing with 2 problems at the same time. The one kayaker's out of his boat.
Well, what's hard about it is they don't know there's a swimmer that just pinned.
Really hard.
They don't know that. That information has, like, I barely knew that with the drone. So they didn't know about the unconscious swimmer part until we debrief later. Because the kayakers were just dealing. If I'm a head guide and I know that's happening, I'm like, oh, all my resources are pointed that way. You guys stay there, stay warm. Let's deal on an unconscious swimmer pinned on a rock.
So what we need is another phrase for that 2020 hindsight and this drone view perspective, because those are unfair advantages, right? Oh, you're 2020 hindsight, this should have happened. The drone view perspective, knowing that all these things are happening at the same time, is an unfair advantage. But in analyzing the situation, you'd be like, oh, maybe next time orange boat or trip leader does look downstream and see someone out of their kayak and say, hey, blue boat, stop. Everybody just stop for a second.
It's so hard though, because I gotta tell you, there's so many things that we did a lot of these scenarios. We did, I think, 11 of these. And there's so many times where the safety kayaker got out of their boat for some reason. And it wasn't, they shouldn't have. A couple times it's like, no, you stay in your boat. But that's not a sign that there's an unconscious swimmer. That's probably the kayakers need to blow 3 whistles. Like, hey, focus. Like, it's almost on the kayakers to let them know. And the kayakers might have just been like, this isn't really part of the scenario. This is just Zach messing with us. Let's just deal with this. That was an unexpected surprise to everybody. But you're right. I think in a real life situation, the kayakers, they focus on the unconscious swimmer first.
Yeah, and everything else could have stopped until that was taken care of. One problem at a time. Don't try and solve 2 problems at the same time. Might be a good little acronym to come up with.
I'm a person that likes to do 2 at a time, and I need to slow myself down personally. I'm like, let's just get these both done so we can keep going and we don't get home late. Or I don't, like we don't create scares out of people. But let's go back to the question. Okay, what's the safest option? Jump in the moving boat, swim the rapid, or get throwback to river left?
In my mind?
Yeah.
Jump in the moving boat.
Throwback to river left. There's no danger in getting throwback to river. It's such throw the bag over, have them jump in, pull. It's like right there. It's such an easy throwback. There's no danger there.
And if we were in that situation and we were having that argument, I would defer to you and say, yeah, no problem. Equal. Let's do it. Execute. No problem. I still would like to have a raft upstream for the whatever, because it's important.
Hold on. I have one more thing. Let's get back to the raft upstream because I want to argue that. The other solution here is take orange boat, have them paddle the top of the eddy, and then they ferry out and they jump in that boat. They could almost catch the eddy there.
I think yes.
Then they're not moving at full speed. There's not a bunch of rocks downstream. So like the other option than upstream boat jump in is just orange boat cuts over, and hopefully if they ferry over with a correct ferry angle that's not 90 degrees, they're going slow and it's an easier jump in than jumping on a moving train.
Or they could get into that eddy and be stabilized and throw a bow line out and hold on to it and make that transfer, like stepping off of the sidewalk. Equally, if that eddy wasn't accessible from downstream from where the orange boat is now, it's possible that the yellow boat could catch that eddy, and then you do your transfer there. So it doesn't have to be a moving boat. But I still think that there is value in having that upstream option where it might become in handy. And once it's past the point, like it's hard to go back upstream. Let's carry this boat back upstream. Carry the ducky back upstream and come through the rapid again. Carry the kayak back upstream and come through again. Like we've done that. It's a hassle. It's a pain in the butt. Oh, why didn't we just stay up there? Why did you come down here anyhow?
Okay, hold on. Let me go. We're back. So we're on the upstream boat thing. I have a theory on this, on why you think it's important. I feel like when you learn something from somebody you learn from, you're stuck in your ways. And like, I just don't like, I never learned that. That was not something that they taught me. And so I get what you're saying. Once it's upstream, you can't get it back upstream. But I wouldn't personally make that a dogma, because sometimes it's nice to have those resources instead of them just hanging out upstream. You need an upstream spotter here. Somebody needs to stop traffic. Somebody needs to be up. Somebody has to be up there. And in this case, it's that boat. So I think I would have left that boat upstream in case other paddlers come down and be like, hey, guys, there's a boat down there. We might have ropes. I think it's important for communication with the parties. But in terms of helping with the rescue, I personally don't see that we always need a boat upstream. Like, I might send boats through to provide more downstream safety instead of just having a boat up there. So I'm going to ask you. But I'm going to ask you a question. Are there times where you've been on rescues where that upstream boat has come in crucial?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
the rock garden, Indecision Rock. People stuck on Indecision Rock, commercial guests, crappy place to swim, crappy place to pendulum someone, having boats upstream was valuable.
Okay. I'm with you on that one.
If the human beings that are in the yellow raft are what you need downstream, they might be able to get downstream without the raft.
And you saying leave the boat there and have them walk down?
Yeah.
Okay, let's say Clavy's 5,000 CFS. Do you need an
Okay.
upstream boat there? Is there any situation where you need an upstream boat when Clavy's 5,000?
If I got a boat, like people are stuck somewhere,
So this is purely a person stuck somewhere thing.
a boat stuck somewhere. I mean, there's always an upstream boat.
Unless it's the last boat.
That's why, I mean, it is the last boat.
But I'm just saying, is this a situation dependent thing?
First of all, I want to correct something because
Okay.
I took a little offense when you said I'm stuck in my ways. Because I don't want to be. I'm trying to be open-minded. I believe what I said was upstream boats are like gold.
You did say that.
I didn't say they are essential or critical or the highest priority. Sometimes you spend gold. Sometimes you don't have gold. Sometimes you have to deploy your gold differently.
Good points.
But I just meant think about them as an asset before you take them out of your tool chest. Like that to me is a conscious decision. Okay, if I send this boat down, I am eliminating the possibility of using a raft from upstream in my rescue ceremony. T, what's T in your?
Think about after.
Think about after. The first thing I thought about in this is somebody's going to get stuck on that rock. Someone's going to be left behind.
How are you going to get them?
The boat is going to be gone. That's the think about after. The boat is gone.
Yep.
2 people are on it. 1 person's left on that rock all by themselves. How do I deal with that? Maybe I want a boat upstream that can come down, bump that rock, maybe on the left-hand side in a controlled situation where clear opening for that person to jump into. You've communicated with them. This is what I want you to do. That might be, I don't know. That was what I was wondering if that got brought up in your debrief.
That did not. And for me, that's something I've never really thought of as a priority. And it's why I like doing the show, because I'm learning things. Like it's a new thing for me to think about. That's why I'm pushing on you so hard, because I want to put holes in your, I either want to put holes in your, what you're doing, or have there be like a wall and you're like, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right.
So it happened on Indecision Rock and Rock Garden on the Tuolumne with a commercial guest. And it was the 5th raft that went by that got close enough and that the person felt real. It was the last chance. Like it was fascinating to watch. It was just jump. Oh, she wouldn't jump. Next boat. Oh, get closer. Oh, a little too far away. And finally, it was the last boat. It was a different company. It was Zephyr following an Arctic trip. And the woman said, I'm jumping. Like I got no choice, and made the jump. And it was, it's dicey. If she misses, it's probably maybe worse than if she lowers herself in and does a controlled swim and tries to get through that stuff. But it took us 5 upstream boats to make it happen. It worked. So that's part of my thought process in these situations.
I mean, that's a unique circumstance. I'm with you. I'm trying to Google the Indecision Rock, but I can't find a good video of it. And I might get copyright banned again. I don't want to do that. I gotta learn more about how that all works. But I think that's a unique situation. At Indecision Rock, Vlad used to just eddy out on the left above it and hang out, wait for us all to go through, and then he would come through last. And so in that situation, if you're eddy down the left, if somebody's on the rock, you can walk down and be like, hey, guess what? Here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna go by. You're gonna jump in.
That was the scenario. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like,
And if Vlad was at the bottom of the rapid, he could walk up to that spot and say, hey, look, here's what we're going to do. And that isn't going to be one of those choices that he has to jump into another raft.
I'm trying to think of more examples of this. And the other one is boat stuck. What's that rock, that super nasty rock below Clavey Falls on the left called again?
Dinosaur?
The one, no, the one that like you kind of go up and over the top of.
And
You go over the
Clavey?
falls, and like at the bottom of the falls on the left, there's that rock that boats get perched on sometimes. It's super dangerous. Way before the hole, way before Pelican Rock.
The Fan Rock.
The Fan Rock. Boat stuck on the Fan Rock. That's an example too. Like if somebody gets left behind there, the boat going by jumping in plan is the way to go. I'm with you there.
What about the picket fence?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. That's tough. How do you get people out of the picket fence? We get a boat. Just show me who's calling. Oh, there we go. Perfect. Let her know we need her graphic. She's probably watching the show. Like, oh, I got the thingy. So, I mean, yeah. So having
copyright violation.
Yeah,
we're both in trouble.
This is our last episode, everybody. We got copyright violated. I hope you enjoyed the channel. Pretty soon we're gonna have a new channel called Gear Tent. It's our new stuff.
Garage sale.
I mean, I think
to pay for your legal fees.
Yeah. Oh man, that's funny. Yeah. Ouch. So I like that thing. An upstream boat is like gold.
Just another thing to think about.
Yeah. No, that's me like taking something in and like that's something to add to our teaching or just like our philosophy and how to deal with these things. Like I wouldn't call it I wouldn't put it in thud, but it's not like an always or like close to always, but it's like I like how you said it's like gold. Sometimes you have it, sometimes you don't. If you don't need to let it go, don't let it go.
Every T that in thud that I envision, not everyone, but it often includes someone left on a rock in the middle of the river. Like that's
for me, I think of a boat upside down attached to a rope in a worse place than it started. Like, oh, we didn't really think about if we pulled it like that, what would happen next. That's the one I think of. And so I've never, for you, like, and the people stuck on the rock isn't on my brain. Probably because I don't work at Tuolumne anymore. And so I don't see it as much anymore. I feel like that's a place where it happens a lot.
Maybe you just don't get stuck on rocks as much as I do.
Well, it's not you getting stuck on rocks. It's somebody else in your team.
I know. Usually, sometimes, most of the time.
Yeah, I mean, that time I jumped when I got stuck, I can't remember how I ended up on the rock I feel like you were there on that trip in not Evangelist. What's the Hell's Kitchen, Hell's Corner? What's it called? Hell's Kitchen. I'm forgetting it's Tuolumne. It's been too long. Hell's Kitchen is the last rapid, right? I was stuck on the rock, that big rock, middle right, and I had to jump on a boat. I feel like you were there on that trip. I think it was an Arda trip. I've had to do this, but it's not fun to jump on a boat.
No.
Okay, we've dissected this to pieces. Let's get to some comments and shut this show down. I think it's time. But I like these discussions because I learn things
before we go to jail for copyright.
Yeah, you're not going to jail. It's just me. But I like these discussions. I like the nuance. Like if people want to, like that's what we do a lot in the show. Is talk about the nuance, like the 45-degree ferrying versus 90 teaching. Like it's nuance, and I think we all learn from that.
Yeah.
So here's jump into the boat's most. It's definitely fun. Worst case is a swim or rescue from the passing raft. What does that mean? Worst case is the swim or rescue from the passing raft. I'm not sure what that means.
You missed right next to a raft. Like someone can pull you in.
Yeah, I mean, right here, I just know the place. If you swim there, it's terrifying. Like those rocks are really pinny. The ones, I don't know if you can see them. It's my cursor
Looks
work.
like it. Yeah.
Like, does you get so these rocks through here, you don't want to swim through. So my fear would be like you jump in and cause panic, and then the boat rides up and gets worse. Or if you did swim here, it would be not fun.
And if we were there having this discussion, I wouldn't argue with you for more than to make hey, can they jump into a raft? Like just to throw it out there. You say, no, here's why. All those reasons are reasons not to do it. I would say, what if the raft was to the left of the blue boat? Would that make it any better? What if we got the raft in the Eddie boat? That's all.
But at the same time, if we were out there and you said, Zach, should we have them jump in the boat? I'd probably be like, sure. Because I have a different opinion, but I trust you. And I don't like when we're out there, I just like it when somebody I respect makes a good decision and we do it. So you would just be like, let's have them jump in the boat. And I'd be like, cool.
Where it really would have happened is if you had said, hey, should we bring the yellow boat down to add to our downstream containment? I would have said, we might need it later in case somebody gets stuck on the rock or we have to deliver someone to the middle of the river. Like we might need it later. Like, let's think about that before we shoot that bullet.
Yeah. Okay. I think we have more comment. Okay. A couple comments. I'm in the try to keep a boat upstream camp in most situations, or at least a boat they can access upstream. Sweet. Love it. Franz wants to see the flow chart. Maybe, maybe we'll do that next week. What's up, Willie Bum Bum? Willie Bum Bum helped us with the course, one of our early courses. Good to see you back in the show. And I have no idea what's WBB.
Willie Bum Bum.
Oh, my brain is toast. I wasn't going for IRF assessor. I was going for a full instructor. I was a provisional instructor, and I finished it. I got it. Yes, being an assessor is a long, long path, which I probably won't go down. I may or may not. But it was a great course. Really, it was a really cool course. Steve, this is a great show.
Thank you. I've had fun.
Yeah, I've had more fun than when Aaron's here.
You know what would be really fun is if he was watching and he knows we were talking bad about him and that you had more fun because he's not here. So let's hope he's watching.
He doesn't watch. If he's not here, he's not going to watch. So we can be as mean as we want. But if we really like needle him, that's the best. He's hopefully he'll be back on soon.
Me too. Hopefully I'll be back on soon. I'll work on getting responding to Noah's phone call and getting a copy of the flow chart.
Well, I don't think Aaron could be here next Friday. So hopefully you can, and we have the flow chart. And I'm going to I'll work on replacing Aaron's face on the graphic and calling it so if it's Aaron and Zach, we're entitled and naive. But if you're on, it can be a different title.
Yeah, well, let's think about that.
Yep. So it'll be maybe next week might be Steve and Zach's rafting extravaganza show or something. I'll work on that.
The Nuance show.
Nuanced. Yeah, it's show about Nuance. Yeah, please hit the like button, subscribe, become a member if you know what that is. Steve, thanks for joining. We'll stay on afterwards so we can chat, and we'll see you guys next week.